Hi guys, this is Courtney and I'm going to be talking to you about sickle cell anemia. So sickle cell anemia is an inherited form of anemia that turns healthy red blood cells into abnormal crescent or sickle-shaped cells like this. Now, normally our blood vessels, represented here as a road or some kind of path, have flowing through them beautifully round disc-shaped blood cells. However, when they get distorted into the sickle shape, they are sticky, stiff, and easily clumped together, which is going to create a blockage in the blood vessel, causing vaso-occlusion. Now, anyone with sickle cell anemia will tell you a vaso-occlusive crisis is extremely painful. And as you would suspect, the blockage of blood flow will cause a lack of oxygen transport to the distal tubules and can lead to thrombosis and or tissue death. Some other manifestations of sickle cell anemia when the sickling occurs is pallor, fatigue, shortness of breath, dizziness, and jaundice and headache. So as I mentioned earlier, children born with this disease inherit a sickle cell gene from their mother's DNA and one from their father's DNA. The affected gene is responsible for the change in the hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is the oxygen-carrying protein of the red blood cell. And if we were to take a look inside a red blood cell of a healthy adult, we would find thousands of oxygen-carrying molecules called hemoglobin A. Think A for adult. If we were to look into a single one of these hemoglobins, we would see 4 subunits, 2 alpha and 2 beta subunits. The beta subunit is made up of a hemogroup and a protein called globin, hence the word hemoglobin. So take note of that globin protein because when a child is born with this disease, sickle cell anemia, one of the letters on the DNA strand of the beta subunit is misrepresented. Just one. Only one out of 146 amino acids. And apparently that is just enough to make a drastic change because when that mutation occurs, the correct amino acid, glutamate, is changed to valine. Well, what's the problem? Well, that hemoglobin A in a healthy adult, hemoglobin A, is no more. The mutated hemoglobin is called now hemoglobin S. Think S for sickle. The hemoglobin S will float around the circulation much like the normal red blood cell until an event like low oxygen tension or extreme cold, which is when the hemoglobin S bind together, forming long fibers that distort the shape of the red blood cell and attack the body. So how do people with sickle cell anemia manage to live quality and healthy lives? Well, the answer is prevention. That is of the attack of those skinny, distorted red blood cells. Until fairly recently, prevention has been dependent on lifestyle and compliance. However, for me, it was exciting to discover that for the first time in millions of people's lives, there is a drug called hydroxyurea, and it has shown great promise to adults and children to prevent the sickle cell crisis from occurring. Hydroxyurea is the only FDA-approved therapy to decrease the occurrence of sickle cell crisis. It's actually a chemotherapy drug. However, in small doses, hydroxyurea elevated the amount of hemoglobin F. Think F for fetal. And yeah, you guessed it. It's the same fetal hemoglobin that's present until about 6 months of life. What's amazing is that hemoglobin F actually decreases the bonding of hemoglobin S proteins and therefore prevents the red blood cells from forming those rods which contribute to the sickling event. No sickle cells means no sticky, distorted, oxygen-deprived red blood cells. Now, as wonderful as it sounds, the drug has some really fatal side effects, one of which are myelosuppression, and it's also thought to be carcinogenic. Drug treatment of hydroxyurea requires frequent monitoring of hematological status in order to evaluate toxicity and damage to the bone marrow. However, the first big study on hydroxyurea with sickle cell anemia was done in 1995. So there is a plethora of information just waiting to be discovered.